Hey everyone, thanks for joining Team Eve as we share our perspective on the topic of an Eve dedicated front end developer. We share this with the goal of helping all Ashtec teams to accelerate delivery, reduce debt, and scale product consistency. So, to summarize, the design system is a foundational tool, but its value is limited by slow feature progress and delivery, which impacts quality. Current dev support model, which is through Scrum teams, creates persistent delays, which leads to accumulation of tech and design debt. Lastly, a dedicated front-end developer will bridge gaps between design and code, reduce tech and design debt, and support all team efficiency and sustainable growth across Ashtec. So what are some of the key challenges without Eve dev support? First, there's lack of consistency from design to code. We see mismatched UIs and unpredictable experiences. Tech debt accumulation. There's duplicate code, outdated components, which leads to long-term costs. There's also increased dev time, rebuilding common patterns instead of using what's available in the design system. Design and development misalignment. We see misunderstood behavior and broken expectations. Tooling and knowledge gaps, inefficient handoffs, and friction in feature and tooling implementation. Also maintenance challenges. Bug fixes and updates are ad hoc. An example of this is Eve Themes React. There's poor adoption and governance. We'll see fragmentation, lack of accountability, and missed opportunities. So there's definitely opportunity to address these challenges. A front-end dev would help the design system build and maintain stable, accessible MUI-aligned components and features, partner with design to interpret intent, code impact, and prevent misalignments, bridge any gaps in tooling and discipline knowledge between design and code, with the goal of efficiency, consistency, and quality that benefits all. An example of this is plugins and tools such as Code Connect and Figma API. And the dev would proactively reduce tech debt and optimize performance. They would also implement a scalable contribution and governance model. So some might say, doesn't Team Eve already get dev support through Scrum teams? So the answer to that is yes, but that model is very slow and inefficient. The key issues we tend to see are that devs from product teams are overloaded with product priorities. Design system work isn't considered priority or consistently deprioritized. Speed of contribution is slow and fragmented, as well as unpredictable and leads to rework. And the design system becomes a bottleneck, not by design, but by resource constraint. So what are the results of this? We tend to see workarounds and temporary solutions that are introduced, and these lead to long-term tech debt, as well as inconsistent UI and inefficient rework. And now I'll hand it off to Oscar to share a few examples of the negative impact.
Thanks, Tony. Now, let's take a look at some examples and the current negative impact of these three examples that I'm going to share with you. Number one, ETR, Eve Things React. The specific example here is that ETR component updates are deprioritized over Scrum team work. Negative impact, this leads to growing gaps between Figma designs and the actual code, causing inconsistencies and extra work for both designers and developers. The extra work translates to higher development costs, slower delivery timelines, and more time spent fixing inconsistencies, ultimately reducing team efficiency and delaying value to the customer. The second example is the shell templates for external and internal applications. Shell templates haven't been well promoted or reinforced. Teams aren't really using them consistently, and that's leading to layout inconsistencies and weak adoption across product teams. The negative impact is that this results in more inconsistent page layouts and responsive views across products, which weakens the overall user experience. That means a less cohesive brand experience, more time spent fixing UI issues, and slower onboarding for new teams, ultimately increasing costs and reducing user trust. Imagine if two developers are building a similar component, but they do it separately because they were not aware of a shared solution. So we have two experiences for the same component. One might offer a better experience than the other, and that weakens the overall user experience as a whole. And the third example is reusable shared patterns. Specific example here is inconsistent application of shared design patterns, which increase design and dev time due to duplication, inconsistent pattern implementation, and that results in tech dev, bugs, and a fragmented user experience. That means higher cost and a slower time to market. That means a less reliable product experience. I like to take one example further, and that's the future state of the ETR storybook. So on this slide, I have a future state column and what we currently have. Let's start with the introduction. In a future state, we see a clear introduction with helpful pages like getting started and component documentation. What we currently have lacks of general information and has unclear documentation. The tokens. Well-documented tokens for color, spacing, borders, radius, and more. What we have currently, we don't have tokens documented at this point. Typography. We need the text styles clearly defined with multiple variants and examples in our future state. Right now, ETR Storybook doesn't have any typography styles defined. What about components and patterns? We need a comprehensive list of components and patterns that are used throughout all of our websites. ETR Storybook has most MUI components listed, but there's no design patterns available. Layout. Layout elements like containers and grids are clearly defined in our future state. On ETR, right now, layout is limited to the if shell template for internal apps only, and that's the only thing we have. What about contributing? We see in our future state offering clear contribution guidelines for developers and QA testing. Right now on ETR, some contribution instructions are provided, but it's not comprehensive. Eve strongly believes that a dedicated developer can help us get to the future state. Let's talk about the cost of delay. On one column, I have the Scrum Team Dev Support, which is what we get right now. On the other column, I have the dedicated dev support. Let's just start with an Eve feature. On the Scrum Team Dev Support, our item gets put in a backlog. We have to wait until there is capacity and resources of that Scrum team to work on it. With a dedicated dev support, we can prioritize things faster. Within the Scrum Team Dev Support, because we have put that item in the backlog, it gets delayed. We have to wait 1, 2, or more sprints to get items done. With a dedicated dev support, because we prioritize that item faster, we can get it done and get it delivered. Within the Scrum Team Dev Support, there's a lot of workarounds and temporary solutions that only pertain to 1 or 2 teams. With a dedicated dev support, we can create solutions that are adopted by all teams at Ash. With the Scrum Team Dev Support, tech and design dev are accumulated because of the workarounds and the temporary solutions. With a dedicated dev support, we can work on scalable solutions for all teams at Ash. Now, having said that, what are the impact areas? Number 1, slower product delivery due to misaligned component rework. Another thing is design drift and visual inconsistency. What about developer frustration and duplicated efforts? And lost trust in the design system's reliability. Bottom line, speed is not a luxury, it's critical to adoption and alignment. Now let's go over a list of what kind of things a dedicated developer can do for the design system. Number one, prioritize FDS work without competing with product feature backlogs. That person can rapidly deliver components, fixes, enhancements, and technical knowledge to inform design implementation. Can also partner closely with product and system designers for implementation fidelity to prevent misalignment, as well as ensure accessibility, performance, and scalability. Also, that person can reduce downstream product rework, as well as ensure if things react ownership, enhancements, maintenance, and clear documentation. Centralizing, organizing storybook repositories, and establishing custom linting rules. Linting rules help developers catch syntax errors early in the process. It can enforce coding standards and style guidelines for other developers. It can also improve code readability and maintainability, and prevent potential bugs before runtime. And ultimately, this person can advocate and evangelize updates to ensure front-end team aligns with the design system. Let's talk about the business impact. In terms of speed of delivery, with our current model, it's a slow, fragmented, and deprioritized. With a dedicated dev, it can be fast, direct, and focused. What about tech and design dev? With our current model, it accumulates over time. But with a dedicated developer, it can be proactively reduced. UI consistency. It varies across products right now. With our current model, with a dedicated dev, it can be standardized and enforced. Dev efficiency. With our current model, it's redundant code and confusion. With a dedicated dev, it's reuse and clear documentation. And the last but not least, design system adoption. With our current model, it's fragmented and slow. With a dedicated developer, trusted and scalable. And now Donnie is going to talk about the proposal and next steps. Thank you.
Thanks, Oscar. So where do we go from here? Team E proposes that we assign a dedicated front-end developer or design technologist to support the Eve design system at least 50 to 100% time. We would align with the front-end manager to define workflow and handoff, and then we'd set delivery metrics to measure velocity, adoption, and debt reduction. And the next steps would be align on a pilot model or permanent role, define priority components and features to work on, and then review success metrics every quarter. Also invite feedback and questions. So thanks everyone for your time, and feel free to reach out to Team Eve with any questions or comments.